All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I really appreciate you taking time to join our first exhibitor briefing for IDS 2021. For those of you who were not familiar with me, I hope you can hear me okay. Otherwise, just let me know. But for those of you who are not familiar with me, I am Mette Petersen, President and Managing Director of Koelnmesse Incorporated. We're the North American subsidiary of Koelnmesse, and I gather that most of you are familiar with us since you have signed up for IDS, and I know that many of you have exhibited with us for many years. We really appreciate that, and with that, I'm sure you're also familiar with our team. At least most of you will be. Our IDS team working on this upcoming show is Darren, who is our Director of Business Development, who made the introduction. Beyond Darren, it's Rita, who's worked on IDS for several years, Rita Dommermuth, as well as Franz Balve, who has worked on IDS for many, many years. He's our dental expert. You are also probably very familiar with George van Brink, our Exhibitor Services Manager. George has also handled IDS also on site for probably 15, 16 years now. So all very experienced team. So just as a brief introduction, and we just wanted to share with you sort of the main topics we want to cover today. Naturally, we want to give you the latest updates and news as they relate to IDS. And let me address the 100-pound gorilla topic in the room right away. I would imagine that you all have the question as to whether IDS is actually taking place next year. And it certainly is. The answer is a big yes. IDS is taking place in March of next year. The show will be shortened by 1 day, but we will go into further details about that a little later. But certainly IDS is taking place. You have probably read the news about the COVID numbers in Germany and in Europe, just as we see here in the US and in Canada. Unfortunately, the numbers have been increasing in Germany as well. There is no way around that. With that, you may have also seen the news from Germany yesterday, when the German government introduced sort of partial lockdowns in part of the country, and that will be starting next week on the 2nd of November and will run for 3 to 4 weeks. And they are simply doing that in order to be proactive, in order to implement fairly strict measures right now in order to prevent further developments and to ensure a better business environment as they approach the holidays. So certainly something that they had to deal with just like we do. But Koelnmesse is very, very committed to organizing safe trade shows. And with that, we adhere very strictly to the guidelines that are mandated by the city of Cologne and the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, where Cologne is located. So today we'll provide you with tips on traveling, visiting Cologne, how to maneuver the fairgrounds and the various protocols as they relate to our US Pavilion. We'll also be talking about some of the resources that are available for traveling, some resources that you can also check on a regular basis yourself in order to get updates about the travel guidelines for the US, for Canada, Mexico, and Germany, of course. You may not be aware of this, but Germany has actually held 40 successful trade shows during the COVID-19 period already. We'll share a brief video with you later on with one of them, but it really has been possible to organize safe trade shows, and we'll go into a lot of details about how Koelnmesse is handling that in Cologne, Germany. Koelnmesse has actually also organized shows in Bangkok and in China previously. This year, just a few weeks ago, Koelnmesse held a really successful show in Bangkok that was physical as well as virtual, and was really well received. You're probably wondering about what type of attendance we can expect for next year. And I think it's fair to say that we will not break record attendance like I believe we did last time in 2019. But IDS is still poised to be the largest gathering of the dental industry, both in 2021 and 2020. So with that, let's get into some of the details. And with that, I will hand the word to Rita.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Rita.
Thank you. Thanks, Mette. Yeah, it's great to be together, and we were very much looking forward to having this meeting with you today because understandably there are going to be a lot of questions. We all haven't traveled very much, and I find the whole idea of traveling is a daunting subject, and it's never ending, and there are many resources. But cutting to the chase, you've probably heard that there are restrictions. The United States and Mexico are on the high risk list in Germany, so that makes entry more difficult. But the trade show industry has achieved easing up of the guidelines for trade show traveling. It is considered essential travel, and that means that there is no quarantine for US and Mexican attendees. Canadian travelers are exempted from that because they're not in a high risk area or status right now. So no quarantine, so that's good news. However, you do need to present a negative COVID test that has been taken within 48 hours of your arrival at a German airport. You also need the proof of attendance, whether that is your exhibitor information or your visitor ticket, plus evidence of some appointment. So they really do want to see that you're a serious business traveler. I cannot imagine that they will be checking this in a great level of detail. I think the most important thing is to have that negative test with you. We do also want to mention the time period of getting this test is very important because you may also need that for your hotel. So make sure that the 48-hour time window can be met by the time you get the test results and that by the time you arrive at your final destination in Cologne. Testing. So we really recommend that you get your test at home. There are a lot of places now that have rapid testing. Obviously, check with your doctor's office and your local authorities. Every state, every province will have different processes and different procedures, but at the end of this travel section, I do have some resources, and just as an example. So for example, you can get a rapid test now at CVS or Walgreens. Each of these will also have some different guidelines about what is required for you to get that rapid test, but it shouldn't be too difficult to get it. And again, do get it before you leave. Next slide. The testing services at German airports. So if that's not possible, you can still get tested at the major German airports on your arrival. And again, if you're going through passport control, that's when you need to have your test. So if you are planning on taking the train after arrival, whether it's Düsseldorf or Frankfurt, for example, and you still need a test, you should be getting this test at the airport. And you will see signs like the little sign that I've posted here. There are several test centers. You will see SARS-CoV-2. That's your sign. This is where you can go. I have a link here for the Frankfurt airport. It's a video that illustrates that process really well. And once you take the test, or whether you will have to wait for it for the results, but you can continue your travel to your final destination. So you do not need to have any more test results until you get to your hotel, which is why we recommend getting that test ahead of time. Go ahead, Darren. Yeah, and once you leave the airport area, you can, of course, get on Deutsche Bahn, rapid transit, just as you would here in the United States. There is a mandate to wear masks, but it's actually a mandate that is enforced. So make sure you do wear your mask, cover your nose and your mouth, and even when you enter the train station building or the platform, you need to be wearing a mask. And the fine can be about 150 euros. Don't expect people are watching everyone. But you know, it's certainly something that the transit authorities are going to be looking for. Same thing would apply to any other place, no matter where you go. Masks and social distancing is, if it's not recommended, it's required. And we can give you a little bit more information on that as we get closer to the show. Yeah, hotels. Hotels are also mandated to maintain high standards of hygiene. Please do contact your hotel. Again, it is our, so far as far as we are informed, most hotels require a test, and do check with your local hotel. Not the chain necessarily, but you know, the hotel you're staying at in Cologne. The trip home, just as we're, you know, since we're talking about airlines and airports, make sure that you check. I've had a question about temperature checks and what happens if I get stopped over a temperature. We are not aware that any airlines are testing temperatures right now. Again, that's something that could change. But at the moment, you just get on the train back to your airport, and you can return to Germany. If you should get sick or not feel well, then you know you might want to get tested before you leave Cologne. That's also possible. We have the information for you to do that. Okay. And the final 2 slides of the travel section, basically resources. I've included the resource of the link of the German Trade Show Association. That's kind of the hub for all information concerning COVID-19 and trade events and travel. So that's where you find extensive information on these travel results. So don't have to take our word for it. You can double check, and you will always be up to date with this link. Two places, Center for Disease Control, they have a lot of travel information. In Germany, the CDC is the Robert Koch Institute, and they also have a lot of information about Germany. For example, Germany has a countrywide app that will alert you to hotspots, something that you might want to download before you arrive there. The additional resources at the US, Canadian, and Mexican governments are also listed. And then finally, the last section here concerns, if you want to move on to the next slide, yeah, video resources. What does it look like to travel? What does it look like to arrive? And some information about the Cologne Trade Fair, which we're going to cover later on. So that's in a very quick snapshot what you need to know. Essentially, have your rapid test within 48 hours, have your trade show information that shows that you're actually traveling to a trade show, and then just protect yourself like you would normally, and just be mindful of potential fines if you don't adhere to the guidelines that you're going to be seeing everywhere as you arrive. Everything is very well posted, and you will get plenty of reminders that, hey, as you're stepping on the train, put your mask on. Yeah, and I went through this fairly quickly, but please let me know any questions that you have. We have definitely more details on any aspect of travel.
And if I may just jump in, Rita, as Darren wrote in the chat, if you have any questions, do feel free to add them to the chat, and we will cover them in a little bit as we go through the various information. We have a lot of stuff to cover, and hopefully we will cover a lot of the questions that you might have as we go along.
Yeah, so if you don't have any questions right now, you can always ask later, but let me turn it over to Franz Balver, who's going to tell you a little bit about what to expect at the Koelnmesse trade fair.
Yeah, you see the slide now with the fairground, and if you're familiar with the 2019 fairground, you will see we have scaled down the event. We don't use for 10 and 11 anymore, but we are now in 2, 3, 4, and 5, and in the new hall 1. So we do have a scale down event using 5 halls with the entrance points from 3 sides, west, south, and east, kind of the same as before. Obviously, there are companies who have decided not to come back, and therefore that explains the reduction of the spaces. We also have new dates, as we already emailed to you. We shortened the show by 1 day, so it's not March 9th to 13th, but it's March 10th to 13th, which is a Wednesday through a Saturday. As for the US Pavilion, we are waiting for headquarters to provide us with a new floor plan. Right now, we still don't have it. We expected to have it by the end of November. And we will share with you the new layout and what it means for our configuration at that time. Next slide, please. We do have, because we have a day shortened of the event, we also give a discount for the last day. That means for our US Pavilion exhibitors, saving us $30 to $35 per square meter. So that would kind of mean if you have a 12 square meter booth, you save like, we're going to give you a discount of $360. If you had an 18 square meter booth, you get $540. So that will help you a little bit for buying your hotel, 1 or 2 hotel nights. And hopefully that gets, I mean, it kind of makes sense because we don't have the full duration of the show. The reason why Cologne also shortened the dates is for exactly for the reason that we don't want to have lavish expenses for hotels for all the time you stay in Cologne. Every day counts. So we think we can do this event in 4 days this time instead of 5 days. A crucial point right now is also that you do have time to decide, because some of you will still scratch your head and say, am I going to go? Am I going to stay? What am I going to do? Essentially, you have till December 9th to get out of the contract without any penalty. So for any reason, you could get out till December 9th, and you get a full refund of what you have paid us so far. And then after December 9th, December 10th to February 9th, we will also take a cancellation, but they have to be travel related. So travel related would mean if Germany wouldn't even allow business travelers to come in anymore, which is not the case right now, as Rita has told you before. And then there are next slide. And then there's a third phase after February 9th. That's a time when we already have expenses for booth construction and services. So at that point, if you still want to cancel, you will get 70% of all fees back, what you have paid. Again, as of right now, all you need is a COVID test, 48 hours old, and you're good to go. You should also keep in mind that hotel booking, if you still haven't done anything, you don't have to do it right now. You can wait till December, even until January to do this, because as of right now, the spaces, hotel spaces is open, and the travel agent, which we work with, TTI Travel, which you're probably familiar with, they're based in New York. They don't take any money. They only take reservation, and they can cancel if needed till December and even January without commitment. And then next slide. What does happen on the fairground to keep you safe or keep everybody safe? We have air ventilation, which is crucial. We have electronic ticketing instead of showing your pass, so there's no touch and avoiding contact. You can, of course, wearing a mask is mandatory, like as you can imagine, you can't go anywhere without a mask. And we do distribute free masks at the entrance point. So if you forget yours, you will get one of ours. We will redesign the space of the exhibit halls. George, who's coming next, he will tell you a little bit about this. But essentially, we will have wider aisles and the entrance and at the exits. And we also will have an app which controls where you guys are going, or where you're going and where the visitors are going. So when the visitors come in, they scan their visitor tickets, just like you scan your exhibitor ticket when you come through the into the fairground. And once visitors come to your stand, they also have to scan their app, or they have to scan their barcode, which shows that they made contact with you when they come in and when they go out. And that helps the organizer to track where the attendees went to. It's important for them to know about contact tracing. Yeah, and then there will be a new booth designs with barriers and social distancing. And George later on will show you some options which kind of pertain to the US Pavilion. But before we do this, we do have a video of the Caravan Show in Düsseldorf, what Mette indicated earlier. That's a show which took place a couple of weeks ago in Düsseldorf, kind of 30 miles from Cologne, comparable fairgrounds. And they had over 100,000 people at that show. And the way and the video kind of illustrates the way it worked. And I think the features you will see in that video are very comparable to what we will have in Cologne. So I think we can, do we have any questions, Darren, on the coming in, or shall we do the video right now?
Well, I would say let's just have the video play in the background because there's not really a sound or audio to it that's worth noting.
Okay.
And this way people can see as you're paying attention to it, you'll notice the different face masks and signs, but just really kind of look at it. So far in the questions, people have been answering it through the chat though, but if you want to kind of double back and talk again about testing was a question that was asked about the timing and the types of tests that could be available. There was also a question if you can go over again what you know now or what you think might happen to the location of the US Pavilion.
Yeah. Well, maybe the last one, the location of the US Pavilion, we honestly don't know this yet because the organizer has to reshovel the entire show basically based on COVID restrictions. And so they have to lay it out anew. So it could be that we are in the same spot, but it could also be that we have to be moved to another spot. We will honestly not know that till the end of November. And the other questions were...
There was a question about how long time the rapid test results take.
Yeah, I can maybe try to help you answer that one a little bit. Unfortunately, it depends on which one you take. Currently, United is testing with Abbott Laboratories on flights from Newark Airport to London Heathrow as a beta test. And that's something you actually can arrive at the airport. That test is included in the price of the ticket. And you will have your results before you depart on that plane. And then that results get loaded into a special app that Abbott Laboratories is running on a global scale that serves almost as your health passport. They're in the process of rolling this test out. I read somewhere that they've readied about 50 million units. It's a saliva-based test. And then I've also just recently found here the Minute Clinics at CVS are also using a very similar 15 to 20 minute turnaround time on some of these types of tests. And we only expect this technology obviously to be easier, quicker, and simpler to access as we march forward towards your March timeframe for the show.
I actually tried to take a rapid test myself because I had to get on a plane. I wanted to make sure I was negative before I flew. And I have to say I got the result within like 30, 45 minutes. It was very efficient. Maybe I was lucky, but it was one of these Minute Clinic locations here in the Chicago area. What I did was simply to Google the various locations here in our area, and it showed me right away what the options are.
There was one more question from Carrie Lyons I just saw, and the first day is not going to be dealers only anymore. So they did away with that because of the 4-day duration. So open to anybody, even on the first day.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now I think we would have George come in with his presentation about how we can make the US Pavilion safe and what guidelines we have to follow.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, so for the booth construction in the USA Pavilion, the biggest hurdle we have to overcome right now is to get a floor plan so we can really talk about what space we can occupy and how those aisles around the booth will look. Aaron, this should look at least familiar. The USA Pavilion design itself will basically remain the same. We will add the optional screens on the counter, so at least we have that covered. And then overall, the booth will have to adhere to the social distancing rules of, for Germany, it's 1.5 meters, but we still call it 6 feet. There will be some limitations as to how much furniture you can place into your booth, how much people can be placed in the booth at certain points, but the design and the look and feel of the pavilion itself will remain the same. So the general guidelines again is really the social distancing, and when you have a space or a booth that is large enough where you have multiple entries, it's suggested or recommended that you place some barriers around your booth, so you will have an entrance and an exit. Again, you need to scan every attendee that visits you with the app, the QR code, so that contact tracing is enabled. And then the stanchions or roping around your booth will prevent them from walking in and out and you know, mitigating the 6 feet social distancing. So yes, here you see an example of the stanchions being placed in the booth where there's an entrance and an exit, and you can monitor more or less the people that are coming in and out of your booth. The traffic around the aisles will be wider, or the aisles will be wider, so there's more space for traffic to flow around. Product placement or your displays need to be placed in a way that it will encourage people to come closer to your booth, so that they don't stand in the aisle. And again, you know, we don't want to create bottlenecks in the aisles where people just bunch up around one counter, but they're really standing in the aisle. They in this case have to more or less come into the booth in order to see your product and step away from the traffic that's walking around the aisle. And here's an example of a booth that has obviously a lot of space around it, so their displays are on the corner, but there's nobody there to physically handle the space or the products, where you really just can look at it, but you have to come into the booth in order to talk to people. When there's spaces within the booth where social distancing cannot be observed, there are options to mitigate that again with, for instance, placing screens on the table. So here we have 4 samples of tables with chairs and for meetings, etc. But you have the screen in order to be able to, you know, require the social distancing, but since you're less than 6 feet apart, you have the screen to mitigate that. That's really it for the booth. I wish I had more to show you, but again, it's going to depend largely on the floor plan, and then we can really talk about each and every single booth, and every company will meet myself. Marissa will be involved, of course, and the sales managers too, when necessary, but we can really discuss your particular situation at that point when we have a floor plan.
And we are planning to offer additional exhibitor briefings, another one before the end of the year, and then again in January, maybe early February, as we get further information. So at that time, I'm sure we'll have more details to share with you.
Yeah, as soon as we have a floor plan, we'll hopefully get more details and how we can organize our group exhibit so we can make sure that everybody complies with the social distancing rules that are in place.
Yeah, we would also recommend that exhibitors bring, their own masks and certainly some disinfectant gels and whatnot. We will have those types of things available both through the pavilion as well as through the shops on the fairgrounds. But the demand might be quite high, and so definitely bring a supply with you.
So I saw that Ken had a question about doing early setup. We'll have to see whether the pavilion will be ready so that you can do earlier setup. We'll look into that.
Yeah,
Yes.
It depends a little bit on the raw space exhibitors and the turnkey exhibitors, right, George?
Correct. The exhibit booth personnel and construction personnel all have to follow the same rules where they have to register. All the booth builders will have to get their own cards and QR codes, etc. as well. There is even, this is not for most people, but there's even for booth builders that do come in, they will have time slots assigned to them. So there's no log jam at the freight doors. So everybody will be spread out a bit. So it's going to depend on when that falls in and how the booth builder will get their time slots. But especially for raw space exhibitors, additional time for setting up, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of a lot of the guidelines for booth setup and so on, Koelnmesse is actually staging trade shows in Cologne, several of them in January and in February, as well as in March. So by the time IDS comes around, we really will have a lot of experience in terms of organizing shows according to the mandated guidelines.
Yeah, we'll have a few test runs before you guys get to come, and by then we know how everything works.
So do we have any further questions?
Somebody had asked here about the discount. As soon as we have your or the booth information, the new layout of the pavilion, we will immediately get in touch with you to discuss your booth. We will, as usual, send each exhibitor a proposal for their space. As you might expect, it's going to change a little bit from what we're used to, but we expect an equally prominent location and a similar neighborhood to what you're used to. But we have to wait and see exactly what we get from Cologne. But the pricing adjustment will be made, with your invoice, and the discount will be reflected at that point.
Yes, once we have a new floor plan, we will reconfirm every exhibitor with a booth space and obviously adjust the new invoice for that space with the correct discounted rate.
Yeah, and George will, consult with you on any safety measures or devices. We showed you the screen that's available for the info counter. We have other options to choose from. We'll plan all that out with you. We will give you some more guidance about, what furnishings and how many people that your booth can accommodate. We just want to make sure that everybody keeps a certain flow of space available, that we don't have a lot of crowding in front of booths. But the wider, aisles should definitely help a lot towards achieving that, just like, we saw in the video before. We'll also have our lounge. I don't know, nobody has asked about that, but we'll make sure it's COVID proof. Again, not the hospitality, you know, that you're used to, but we will be sure to maintain the basic services that we always have had, and that you still have a place where you can grab a lunch and have a quick meeting, and you know, socially distanced. And we also still have meeting rooms available to, you know, supplement your space, your booth space.
One activity which we probably would not be able to offer based on our current information is our pavilion party. Currently, they don't really allow parties in the evenings, which is a shame, but hopefully it will change by the time we get to March.
Yeah.
All right, it seems as if we've covered everything for now.
You guys can open your mics if you want and ask us questions.
Yeah,
If you,
yeah,
if
just
you want.
unmute.
But as Darren had mentioned in the chat, we are recording this, and we will be sending all the information and the slides to all of you, so that you can go back and check it out if there were certain details that you missed. And other than that, we look forward to sharing further details with you as things develop. And in the meantime, I'm sure you know how to contact everybody, especially Rita, Franz, and George. And with that, I certainly wish all of you all the very best. Have a nice afternoon, and we will stay in touch with you. And as I mentioned, don't hesitate to call or email us with any questions you may have. So thank you so much, everybody, from all of us.
Yeah, stay safe.
Bye
Thank you
now.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.